04:27 a.m. The sky is blacker than coal. 9 DFS 230 gliders drift like ghosts, engines cut, only the faint whistle of wind over canvas wings. Inside the lead glider, codenamed Granite, Oberleutnant Rudolf Witzig grips the wooden bench so hard his knuckles glow white in the dim red bulb. 21 years old, the youngest assault commander in the Fallschirmjäger. He does not speak. None of them do. You can taste the fear in the air, metallic like blood on a bitten lip. Below, the Albert Canal is a silver ribbon catching the first sickly hint of dawn. And there, squatting on its northern bank like a concrete dragon, sits the impossible. Fort Eben-Emael. 1,200 meters of rock, steel, and 75-millimeter guns that can hurl death 20 kilometers. The Belgians call it invincible. Tonight, 85 German paratroopers are going to land on its roof. A sudden lurch. The tow rope snaps free. Silence swallows the world. Only the gliders creak and 11 hearts hammering in 11 rib cages. Witzig presses his face to the tiny porthole. He sees it now. The flat green terrace of casement 18, no bigger than a tennis court, lit by a single searchlight that sweeps lazily across the grass. That patch of ground is their entire universe. Miss it by 50 meters, and they die in the canal. Hit it, and they still might die. But at least they get to fight. The pilot, Lieutenant Weiss, whispers without turning his head. 30 seconds. Witzig closes his eyes for one heartbeat. He pictures the hollow charge diagrams he memorized in a freezing barn 6 months ago. 50 kilograms of explosive that can punch through 2 meters of armored steel like it's cardboard. A weapon that doesn't exist yet in any army on Earth. Tonight, it will be born in fire. The glider drops. Your stomach floats into your throat. Grass rushes up, impossibly fast, impossibly green. Skids bite earth. A bone-jarring crash. And then nothing. No machine gun fire, no alarm. Just the low humming of ventilation fans inside the fortress, unaware that death has already landed on its back. Witzig is first out, MP40 raised, boots sinking into dew-soaked grass. The air smells of wet concrete and gun oil. 11 shadows fan out behind him. Rupe Granit, the spearhead. 70 meters away, the steel dome of casement 18 glints dully, its twin 75-millimeter guns still asleep. Witzig raises a gloved hand. The demolition team, Feldwebel Heinemann and Gefreiter Unger, sprint forward, dragging the first 50-kilogram hollow charge like it's a coffin full of tomorrow. A Belgian sentry steps out of a doorway for a cigarette. He never finishes lighting it. A silenced pistol coughs once. The body slumps without a sound. 04:31 a.m. The first charge is already clamped magnetically to the dome. Heinemann jams the fuse. 10 seconds. Witzig counts them out loud, voice calm, almost bored. 3, 2, 1. The explosion is not loud, it is apocalyptic. A jet of white-hot fire punches downward through steel and concrete, vaporizing everything in its path. The dome lifts half a meter into the air and falls back with a clang that echoes inside the fortress like the toll of doom. Somewhere far below, 1,200 Belgian soldiers jump out of their bunks, hearts stopping. Smoke and cordite roll across the roof. WWII is already moving, waving his men forward into the glowing red wound they just carved in Europe's strongest fortress. Behind him, 8 more gliders are touching down in perfect sequence. Bang, bang, bang. Each one vomiting black-uniformed hunters onto the grass. The Belgians still have no idea what is happening. They will. In 31 minutes, the first counterattack will come roaring up the tunnels, and 85 Fallschirmjäger will discover exactly how much hell a handful of determined men can hold back when they have nothing left to lose. But right now, in this frozen heartbeat between silence and detonation, WWII allows himself one whispered sentence into the burning dawn. Für Deutschland und für die Hölle. The smoke is thick enough to chew. It tastes of scorched paint and melted copper. WWII drops through the jagged hole first, boots clanging on a steel ladder twisted like ribbon candy. The air inside is furnace hot. He lands in a crouch on a floor slicked with hydraulic oil and something darker. 2 Belgian gunners lie crumpled against the far wall, one still clutching the breech lever of a 75mm gun now bent like a pretzel. Their eyes are open, staring at the ceiling that isn't there anymore. No time for pity. WWII's men pour in behind him. Heinemann, Unger, the wiry Sudeten German Gefreiter Huhn, who speaks fluent French and already has a captured Belgian rifle slung across his back. They move fast. Corridors branch left and right, lit by emergency bulbs the color of old blood. Somewhere below, a klaxon finally begins its mournful howl, too late. WWII checks the hand-drawn map taped inside his sleeve. Every line memorized in candlelight for months. Objective Maastricht 1 and 2, Wies, and the big one, Cupola 120, the rotating 75 that can fire in any direction. If that monster wakes up, the entire invasion corridor dies here. A door ahead, steel, dogged shut from the inside. Behind it, the faint clatter of bolts being thrown. Belgian survivors organizing. Heinemann slaps a 12.5-kilogram shaped charge against the hinges without being told. They all step back, fingers in ears. The blast is sharper inside the concrete corridors, feels like a giant push punching your chest. The door peels open like a tin of sardines. Inside, 6 Belgians in gray greatcoats, one officer with a pistol already raised. He fires first. The bullet sparks off the wall beside WWII's helmet. 3 MP40s answer in a single ripping snarl. It is over in 2 seconds. The officer is on his knees, coughing blood, staring at the 21-year-old German as if he is the devil incarnate. WWII kneels, presses the muzzle to the man's forehead. Les canons! Où sont les commandes pour Cupola 120? The Belgian surprisingly laughs through red bubbles. Jamais, Bosch, jamais. WWII pulls the trigger. The sound is small and obscene in the sudden silence. He stands up, already moving. No one says a word about what just happened. They have 18 more objectives and maybe 20 minutes before the garrison realizes how few invaders there actually are. 0441 a.m. Gruppe Eisen, Lieutenant Egon Delica's team, has already taken Casement 26 with another hollow charge that turned 2 75mm guns into modern art. From the roof, you can see the flashes of the next gliders landing perfectly on their postage stamp targets. Every detonation is a heartbeat in a body that doesn't yet know it's dying. But now the fortress wakes. Far below, in the main barracks 3 stories under rock, Commandant Jean Jotran snaps awake to the first explosion. 61 years old, veteran of the Great War, winner of 7 decorations for bravery. He throws on his tunic, shouting for his adjutant. Lights flicker. The telephone lines to some casements are already dead. Jotran's mind races. Air raid? Sabotage? He has no idea the enemy is already in his walls,
walking his corridors with maps more accurate than his own. In the ammunition corridors, Belgian soldiers are grabbing rifles, pulling on boots, some still in underwear. Confusion is the deadliest weapon right now, and the Germans are wielding it like virtuosos. 04:47 a.m. Witzig's group reaches the observation cupola Mi Nord. A narrow steel ladder spirals upward into darkness. Gefreiter Hoon volunteers to climb first. He is halfway up when a Belgian machine gun opens fire from the top, muzzle flames strobe lighting the shaft. Bullets ricochet like hornets. Hoon screams once, then tumbles backward, body thudding wetly at Witzig's feet. First casualty. Witzig doesn't even look down. He pulls the pin on a stick grenade, counts to 2, and lobs it upward in a perfect arc. The explosion is muffled, intimate. Pieces of the Belgian gunner rain down the ladder. Witzig climbs through the smoke, steps over the mess, and emerges onto the highest point of the fortress. From here he can see everything. The Albert Canal bridge is still intact, the road to Liège, and far to the west, the first pale streaks of the real dawn. He keys his radio, voice calm as winter. Granit an Koch. Alle Ziele bis auf Cupola 120 genommen. Verluste Licht. Fort is blind. Grenade to Koch. All objectives except Cupola 120 taken. Losses light. Fort is blind. On the far side of the fortress, Feldwebel Helmut Arndt, leader of Gruppe Stahl, has just discovered that his own glider came down 400 meters short, in a plowed field. 11 men, 150-kilogram charge short, and now marching openly across open ground while Belgian sentries finally start shouting the alarm. Machine gun tracers begin stitching the night. Arndt's team is about to walk into a meat grinder with no cover and no hope of surprise. And down in the bowels of Eben-Emael, Commandant Jean Jotron has finally reached the command post. He picks up the telephone to warn the bridges. The line is dead. He tries the radio, static. His adjutant, face white, whispers the impossible. Mon commandant, they are already on the surface. Paratroopers, maybe a regiment. Jotron stares at the tactical map on the wall. 85 Germans. He has over 1,200 men. And in 31 hours, those 85 are going to make him wish he had none.
The fortress is no longer asleep. It is screaming. Deep inside Block 01, Sous Lieutenant Lucien Stevens grabs the shoulder of a terrified private who is trying to stuff a second clip into his rifle with shaking hands. Up the stairs, now! They're on the roof, not in the tunnels yet. Stevens is 26, soft-spoken, a school teacher from Namur who never wanted to be a soldier. Tonight he is going to become the man who almost saves Belgium. 60 Belgian soldiers, engineers, cooks, gunners with bandaged feet form a ragged line behind him. They have 2 machine guns, a crate of grenades, and pure, boiling rage. The staircase to casemate 18 is narrow, concrete, perfect for defense. Stevens leads them up at a run, boots pounding like war drums. On the surface, Witzig hears them coming. The echo is unmistakable. 60 pairs of boots shaking the bones of the fortress. He has 9 men left in fighting shape, 9 against 60. He looks at Heinemann, who is already grinning like a wolf. They drag 2 fallen Belgian machine guns to the lip of the blasted casemate and brace them on the twisted steel. No time for tripods. They will fire from the hip. The first Belgian head appears at the top of the stairs. Heinemann opens fire. The MG-34 roars, muzzle flame lighting the smoke like hell's own strobe. The staircase becomes a slaughter pen. Bodies tumble backward, tripping the men behind them. Grenades clattered down from above, Belgian grenades now turned against their makers. The explosion hurls shrapnel and limbs in every direction. Stevens is hit in the thigh, but keeps coming, dragging himself over his own dead, pistol blazing. He reaches the top, screaming something lost in the noise, and empties his magazine into the smoke. A German paratrooper, Gefreiter Unger, takes 3 rounds in the chest and sits down slowly, surprised, as if someone has asked him to tea. For one terrifying moment, the Belgians almost push through. Then Witzig steps into the open, MP40 steady, and walks his burst across the staircase like a gardener watering flowers. Stevens takes a round through the throat and topples backward, eyes still locked at the young German officer who refuses to die. Silence falls, broken only by the wet drip of blood on concrete. 28 Belgians lie dead or dying on the stairs. The rest retreat, carrying their wounded, leaving crimson footprints all the way back to the depths. Witzig's hands are shaking now, but only for a second. He keys the radio again. Granit. Counterattack repulsed. Heavy enemy losses. We hold the surface, for now. 5:27 a.m. Across the fortress, the story repeats in miniature again and again. Lieutenant Egan de Lica's Gruppen Eisen fights room to room inside casemate 26, using captured Belgian flamethrowers to drive defenders out of ventilation shafts. Feldwebel Arndt, Gruppen Stahl, has finally reached his objective after losing 4 men to grazing machine gun fire on the open grass. His last 50-kilo charge is slapped against the twin guns of Maastricht II. The blast is so violent it blows the observation visor clean out of the cupola and sends it spinning into the canal like a steel frisbee. Every major casemate is now blind, deaf, or burning. The fortress that was supposed to stop an army for weeks has been gutted in under an hour by fewer men than a single reinforced company. But the Belgians are not finished. Far from it. In the central command bunker, Commandant Jotrand slams his fist on the map table so hard the glass cracks. He has just learned the truth from a wounded sergeant dragged down from the surface. Not a regiment, not a battalion. 85 men. 85. Jotrand's voice is ice. Then we bury all 85 right here. Alert every block. I want flamethrower teams in the main galleries, flood the upper corridors with artillery observers, and get me Major Mine on the telephone. He still holds the underground magazines. Tell him no one surrenders. No one. He turns to his adjutant, eyes burning with the same fire that held the Isère in 1914. They want our fortress. They'll have to dig us out with their teeth. 5:40 a.m. On the surface, dawn is finally breaking, thin, cold, and the color of a bayonet blade. Witzig stands on the wrecked dome of casemate 18, watching the Albert Canal bridges in the distance. He can see tiny figures, German combat engineers, already wiring explosives under Belgian guard posts. The bridges must stay up for the panzers waiting across the border. If even one bridge falls, the entire blitzkrieg into Belgium dies here. His radio crackles. It is Hauptmann Walter Koch, the overall commander, circling overhead in a Feastless Stork spotter plane. Witzig, status. Surface secured, bridges visible and intact, but they're organizing below. We're running low on charges and men. A pause. Then Koch, almost gently. Hold until 1400 hours. 51st Engineer Battalion is crossing the border now. 1400 men and heavy guns. You just have to live 8 more hours. 8 hours. With 74 effectives left, 11 already dead or wounded, inside a fortress full of 1,200 enemies who now know exactly how few they are. Witzig looks down at the blood-soaked grass around him, at the smoking holes punched into Europe's mightiest fortress, and for the first time since the glider released the tow rope, he feels something colder than the dawn. Fear. Because the Belgians are coming again, and this time, they know what they're fighting for.
The sun climbs, pale and merciless, turning the fortress roof into a skillet. Spent cartridges glitter like frost. Every breath tastes of cordite and scorched stone. Witzig has turned the wrecked observation cupola Nord into a command post. From here, he can see all 3 bridges, the canal and the Dutch border beyond. He counts his men the way a miser counts coins. 71 still able to fight, 3 seriously wounded, 11 dead. Ammunition is down to what they can scavenge from Belgian bodies. The hollow charges are gone, every last 50-kilogram monster detonated. Now it's knives, grenades, and prayers. Below, the fortress has become a hive of fury. Commandant Jotterond has organized his garrison into 3 assault columns. They move through tunnels the Germans have never seen, guided by engineers who helped pour the concrete a decade ago. The Belgians no longer rush blindly. They advance in bounds, flamethrower teams in front, sappers with satchel charges behind. They know every ventilation shaft, every false wall. 6:47 a.m. The first coordinated counterattack hits Gruppe Beton at casement 12. Feldwebel Max Meyer's 9 men are low on ammunition and have been awake for 30 hours. A Belgian flamethrower pokes its nozzle through a firing slit they thought was sealed. Liquid fire roars down the corridor. 3 Fallschirmjäger come screaming out of the casement with their uniforms burning like torches. One makes it 10 meters before he collapses and curls into a ball. The smell of pork and petrol drifts across the roof. Meyer drags the other 2 behind a wrecked gun barrel, beating the flames out with his bare hands. His palms are raw meat, but he is laughing, high, ragged, almost mad. He grabs a captured Belgian BAR, braces it on the corpse of a friend, and waits for the next black nozzle to appear. When it does, he empties the entire 20-round magazine into the flame port. The flamethrower tank detonates inside the corridor. The screaming that follows is not human. 7:12 a.m. Witzig receives the news by runner. Beton is holding, but barely. He looks at his watch and feels time turning to tar. 6.5 hours until the engineers arrive. An eternity. He orders the wounded moved into the deepest crater, the one blown into Cupola 120, and posts 2 men with the last machine gun to guard them. Then he does something no textbook allows. He splits his remaining force into roving fire teams of 4. No fixed defense. They will fight like rats in a sewer. Strike, disappear, strike again. The fortress is too big for 85 men to hold ground. They will hold momentum instead. 8:05 a.m. The Belgians try something clever. They open the massive flood valves in the lower galleries. Water begins to rise in the ammunition corridors, knee-deep, then waist-deep. They hope to drown the Germans out of the upper levels or force them into the open. But the Fallschirmjäger simply climb higher, using the Belgian emergency ladders against them. The water traps the defenders as much as the attackers. Now no one can bring up heavy weapons or fresh troops without wading. 8:30 a.m. A Belgian 75mm battery in Block 05, one of the few still intact, begins blind firing across the canal at suspected German positions on the far bank. Shells whistle overhead and explode in the fields beyond. Every detonation is a reminder. The fortress is crippled, but not dead. If even one of those guns finds the range of the bridges. Witzig radios Koch again, voice hoarse. We can't take Cupola 120 from above. Too many embrasures covering the approaches. Request permission to try from inside. Koch's reply is immediate. Negative. You lose half your force in the tunnels. Hold what you have. Witzig stares at the massive rotating dome, 3 guns still silently watching the dawn. He clicks off the radio without answering. 9:15 a.m. The longest hour begins. Heat shimmers off the concrete. Men sway on their feet from exhaustion. A young Belgian lieutenant, barely 19, is dragged up under a white flag by 2 of his own men. He is blindfolded, hands tied. They want to parley. Witzig meets him on the open terrace between casements 18 and 26. The boy is shaking so hard his teeth chatter. Commandant Jotterand offers terms, he stammers in perfect French. Surrender now, and you will be treated as honorable soldiers. Refuse, and no prisoners. Witzig removes the blindfold so the boy can see what 85 men have done to the invincible fortress. Burned corpses, shattered cupolas, rivers of blood baking under the sun. Then he leans in close enough to smell the fear sweat on the lieutenant's neck. Tell your commandant, he whispers, that Fallschirmjäger do not surrender. We are here to take his fortress, not to rent it. Go back down and die like men. He shoves the blindfold back on and pushes the boy toward the nearest staircase. Behind the cloth, the lieutenant begins to cry, silent, helpless tears. As he disappears into the depths, Witzig turns to his runner, Gefreiter Karl Schneider, who has not slept in 40 hours and whose eyes are red as the dawn. Karl, he says quietly, if I give the order to fall back, you are to shoot me. Understood? Schneider nods once. No hesitation. 9:30 a.m. The temperature on the roof is now over 30 degrees Celsius. Men are drinking water from the radiators of destroyed gun tractors. Some have stripped to their waist, skin sunburned lobster red. Their black camouflage smocks are now blood camouflage. Far away, across the border, the first German panzer columns are rolling. You can hear them if you listen past the gunfire, a distant, endless growl like thunder that never quite arrives. They are coming, but they are still hours away. And in the tunnels beneath Eben-Emael, Commandant Jotterand loads a fresh clip into his 1911 Browning and begins climbing the stairs himself. He is 61 years old, limping from an old wound at Dixmude, but he is coming all the same, because some things are bigger than survival. The next counterattack will not be 60 men. It will be 200, led by the old lion in person. And the Fallschirmjäger have exactly 30 rounds per man left. The heat is a living thing now, pressing down like a hot iron on the back of the neck. Every breath drags sandpaper across raw throats. The fortress roof looks like the surface of the moon after a meteor shower. Black craters, twisted steel bones, bodies already swelling in the sun. Witzig has not sat down in 6 hours. His left eye is swollen half shut from a ricochet fragment. Blood crusts the lashes. He stands on the highest point of Mi Nord, binoculars welded to his face, watching the staircase mouths the way a sailor watches for storm clouds. They come at 10:05 exactly. First the sound, 200 boots moving in perfect unison, like one great animal.
Then the flamethrower teams appear, 5 nozzles this time, followed by sappers with demolition charges slung like bandoliers. And at the very front, limping but upright, greatcoat unbuttoned, white hair flashing under the steel helmet, walks Commandant Jean-Fritz Jautrand. He carries no rifle, only the old Browning in his right hand, and in his left a megaphone taken from the fortress PA system. His voice booms across the roof, calm, almost paternal, in French first, then German. Deutsche Fallschirmjäger, you have fought bravely, but it is finished. Lay down your weapons and you will live. I give you my word as a Belgian officer. Silence answers him. Then a single German voice, Feldwebel Meyer, half his face burned black, shouts back from the ruins of Casemate 12. Belgier, komm und hol sie dir. Come and get them. Jautrand lowers the megaphone. His shoulders sag, not from fear, but from sorrow. He raises the pistol and fires one shot into the air. The Belgians attack. They come in 3 waves, using every trick the fortress itself taught them, smoke pots, rolling barrages of hand grenades, flamethrowers sweeping in wide arcs. The roof becomes a single roaring furnace. WWII's men fight from shell hole to shell hole. No one is in command anymore. Every squad is its own kingdom. Lieutenant Delica is shot through both legs and keeps firing his MP-40, lying on his back, until a Belgian bayonet finds his throat. Gefreiter Schneider drags him into cover, screaming for a medic that does not exist. At casemate 23, Feldwebel Arndt's last 4 men run out of ammunition completely. They fix bayonets and charge the flamethrower team head-on. 3 die in the first 10 seconds. Arndt reaches the flame gunner, drives his bayonet through his visor, and wrestles the nozzle away. He turns the weapon on the second wave, walking the stream of liquid fire across the terrace until the tank runs dry. Then a Belgian sergeant puts a bullet through the back of his skull. Arndt falls, still holding the empty nozzle like a lance. 10:28 a.m. The Germans are down to 43 effectives. The roof is no longer a battlefield, it is a charnel house. Belgian bodies lie 3 deep around some casemates. The concrete is slick with blood and burning fuel. Every German uniform is torn, blackened, soaked crimson. WWII has fallen back to the great crater of Cupola 120, the one place with high walls on every side. He and 19 men form a ragged circle around the wounded. They have 1 MG-34 left with half a belt, a dozen grenades, and whatever is in their pockets. Jautrand's 3rd wave reaches the crater lip. The old commandant is in the front rank now, limping over his own dead, pistol empty, wielding it like a club. His uniform is torn and scorched, blood runs from a gash above his eye. He looks like a prophet come to judge the damned. WWII stands up in full view. He has no helmet anymore, blonde hair plastered to his forehead with blood and sweat. He raises his right hand, not in surrender, but in greeting. Commandant Jautrand, he shouts, voice cracking. I salute you. You are the bravest man I have ever seen. Jautrand stops 10 meters away. For one impossible second, the guns fall silent. The 2 commanders stare at each other across a carpet of corpses. 21 years old and 61, invader and defender, both already dead men who simply refuse to lie down. Jautrand's reply is soft, almost lost in the wind. And you, mon petit, are the devil himself. He raises his empty pistol to fire. That is when the sky finally answers. A low, growing thunder, not artillery, not aircraft. The horizon to the east darkens as if night had decided to return early. Then you see them, hundreds of vehicles, gray and dust-covered, moving fast along the Maastricht road. The 51st Engineer Battalion, 1,400 fresh men, half-tracks with 88mm guns already unlimbering, motorcycles racing ahead with swastika pennants snapping. The first 88 shell whistles overhead and detonates against the fortress's western wall with the sound like the end of the world. Concrete the size of cars tumbles into the canal. The Belgians look up. Their faces change. The fight drains out of them like blood from a cut throat. Jotrand lowers the pistol. He does not look at the Germans anymore. He looks towards the bridges, still standing, towards Liège, towards a Belgium that will fall in days. He turns to his adjutant, voice steady. Signal the white flag. It is over. 11:47 a.m. The firing stops as suddenly as it began. Only the wind moves, stirring empty cartridge cases that tinkle like wind chimes across the roof. WWII sits down hard on the edge of the crater. His hands will not stop shaking. He counts his survivors, 38 men still on their feet. 47 walked away from the gliders 7 hours ago. A Belgian medical orderly climbs into the crater with a Red Cross flag. He kneels beside a wounded Fallschirmjäger and begins cutting away the blackened uniform. The German looks up at him, confused, and tries to smile. "Danke," he whispers. The Belgian does not answer. He is crying too hard.
The white sheets appear first at the main gate, then along every embrasure, fluttering like surrender flags on a sinking ship. They are bed sheets, tablecloths, undershirts, anything white the Belgians can find. The fortress that was designed never to fall has run out of fight. Commandant Jotrand walks alone across the roof toward the crater of Cupola 120. He has removed his helmet. The white hair is stark against the blackened concrete. Every step costs him. The old wound from 1918 has opened again and blood soaks his left boot. He carries no weapon now, only a folded Belgian tricolor tucked inside his tunic like a death shroud. WWII waits for him at the crater's edge. The young Oberleutnant has found a relatively clean rag somewhere and is using it to wipe the blood from his hands. It is hopeless. The rag is crimson in seconds. He gives up and simply stands, swaying slightly from exhaustion. The two commanders meet between piles of their dead. No guards, no witnesses. Just the smell of the abattoir and the low moan of the wounded. Jotrand speaks first, voice hoarse but steady. "You kept your word, Herr Oberleutnant. The bridges are intact. My country is finished." He draws the folded flag from his tunic and offers it, handle first, like a sword of defeat. WWII does not take it immediately. He studies the old man's face, the deep lines, the eyes that have seen too much. Then he reaches out, not for the flag, but for Jotrand's hand. They shake once, firmly, soldier to soldier. "I will see that your wounded are cared for," WWII says, "and your dead, buried with honor." Jotrand nods. A single tear cuts a clean line through the soot on his cheek. He turns away before the Germans can see any more. 12:47 p.m. The first German engineers swarm across the roof, boots crunching on broken glass and bone. They stare in open awe at what 85 men have done. One lieutenant from the 51st, barely older than WWII, stops dead in front of the cratered cupola 120 and whispers, "Mein Gott, this is impossible." A Feldwebel with a movie camera begins filming. The footage will be shown in newsreels across the Reich within days. Smiling Fallschirmjäger posing on shattered gun barrels, waving to the camera like conquering heroes. None of them are smiling now. They are too tired, too empty. Many sit among the Belgian prisoners and share water canteens without thinking whose side the water came from. 1,203 Belgian soldiers file out of the main gate in perfect ranks, rifles reversed, heads high. They have been ordered to surrender with dignity, and by God, they will. German guards snap to attention as Jotran passes. Some salute. They cannot help it. Jotran stops once, turns back toward the fortress that was his life for 10 years. He raises his right hand in a slow, final salute to the concrete dragon, now bleeding smoke from every wound. Then he walks on, into captivity, without looking back again. 1:15 p.m. The bridges across the Albert Canal are already thundering under the weight of the 4th Panzer Division. You can feel the vibration even here, 2 kilometers away. Panzers in long gray columns, engines roaring, pennants snapping. The road to France is open. The Maginot Line will be flanked in less than a week. Everything Hitler has gambled on has just come true because of what happened on this roof. Hauptmann Koch finally lands his little stork on the grass terrace that only hours ago was a killing ground. He climbs out, finds Witzig sitting on a broken gun barrel, staring at nothing. Koch puts a hand on the younger man's shoulder. "You did it, Rudy. You bloody well did it." Witzig looks up. His eyes are ancient. "Sir, we lost 47. Koch has no answer for that. He simply pulls a silver flask from his pocket, takes a long pull, and hands it over. The first Knight's Cross of the war will be pinned on Witzig's torn tunic tomorrow morning. Every man who landed on the fortress will receive the Iron Cross. The propaganda machine will call it the perfect assault, the new face of warfare. They will never mention the smell or the way the concrete still steams with blood at sunset. Years later, when historians argue about whether Eben-Emael was truly decisive, they will miss the point. It was never about the fortress. It was about what 85 exhausted, terrified boys and one stubborn old Belgian commander proved in the space of 31 hours, that courage has no nationality, that concrete and steel mean nothing when men decide they will not be moved, and that sometimes the difference between victory and defeat is simply who is willing to die 1 minute longer. As the sun finally sets on 11th May 1940, the fortress is quiet for the first time since 04:27 the previous morning. Only the wind moves across the roof, stirring the white surrender sheets that have not yet been taken down. They look almost like ghosts.